There's a moment early in any deep study of World War I where you hit the same realization every serious historian eventually encounters. The war didn't have to drag on for 4 long, grinding years. It could have ended before the trenches, before the mud, before Verdun, before the Somme. And you know, the most astonishing part is that Germany actually had a plan designed for exactly that outcome. A lightning-fast war meant to shatter France before Russia could fully mobilize. For many, it's a footnote. But for those of us who live and breathe strategy, logistics, and the cold realities of battlefield survival, it's one of the greatest what-if junctions in military history. So let's take a solid minute to set the stage. This wasn't an overly ambitious fantasy drawn on a map by idealistic generals. It was a hard, calculated blueprint crafted by the meticulous and famously methodical Count Alfred von Schlieffen. It was based on rail timetables, manpower studies, and brutally honest assessments of geography and enemy capability. For 42 tense, breath-holding days in 1914, it almost worked. And if it had, the world you and I grew up in, its borders, its global power centers, its military doctrines, would look radically different. There would be no trench warfare shaping the next century, no drawn-out attrition shaping military thinking, and very likely no rise of extremist movements fed by the resentment born from a devastated Germany. Now let's get straight into the meat of this topic and unpack both the plan and the alternate reality where it succeeds. The Schlieffen Plan was built on one unforgiving premise. Germany could not survive a prolonged two-front war against France in the west and Russia in the east. The only way out was through decisive action. That meant wiping France out of the conflict before Russia could fully mobilize, then shifting the full military weight eastward. To do this, Germany planned a massive sweeping right-wing manoeuvre through neutral Belgium using flat terrain and well-developed rail lines to bypass the French fortress network on the direct border. The goal was nothing less than a rapid encirclement of Paris and destruction of the French field armies. Where the plan showed its brilliance was in its understanding of logistical truth. Schlieffen knew France would never expect the main German thrust through Belgium on such a massive scale. He also understood that operational speed was a weapon in itself. In modern survivalist terms, the plan relied on seizing initiative and keeping the opponent reacting rather than acting, a principle that applies as much to military operations as to any survival situation where momentum determines outcome. The number wasn't symbolic. It was the window before Russia's manpower and railway system could turn its vast population into actual battlefield pressure. Even a slow Russian response could force Germany to divert troops away from the west, and the entire plan hinged on overwhelming force exactly where France least expected it. To appreciate the magnitude of the gamble, consider this. The German High Command was effectively betting the existence of the country on a timetable. If the plan failed to break France quickly, Germany would be stuck fighting two industrial powers on two fronts indefinitely. That's exactly what later happened. But in the opening weeks of the war, the German advance moved at a pace that alarmed the Allies. City after city fell. The French Fifth Army was nearly destroyed at Charleroi. The British Expeditionary Force, though small, fought a series of brutal rearguard actions just to avoid encirclement. This wasn't theoretical success. It was measurable, tangible momentum. So, everyone familiar with the campaign knows the usual explanations. Belgium resisted longer than expected, the British Expeditionary Force fought harder than anticipated, and, well, Moltke, Schlieffen's successor, modified the plan, weakening the crucial right flank. But you know, serious historians look beyond that. The deeper issue was strain, logistical, psychological, and structural. Troops were marching faster and farther than the supply system could support. Communications lagged, exhaustion set in. When the German line bent inward at the Marne, instead of sweeping around the French flank as intended, the entire operation lost coherence. The French counterattack and the German retreat to the Aisne sealed the failure. Understanding this matters because it reveals the most practical battlefield lesson the plan offers. Even the best strategy collapses without sustained support. A successful Schlieffen Plan would have meant the fall of France by early October 1914. Britain, lacking a strong foothold on the continent, might have sued for peace or, well, perhaps shifted to a long naval blockade with no practical way to force Germany's hand. Russia, now alone, would face a fully mobilized German war machine. The most likely outcome is a negotiated settlement rather than total conquest, leaving Germany dominant in Central Europe. And this is where the implications become enormous. No drawn-out trench war means no total exhaustion of Europe. No Versailles Treaty. No conditions enabling extremist rise in Germany. No World War II in the form we know. Even the colonial world would have shifted, with German influence remaining stronger overseas. For the survival-minded viewer, or anyone who studies conflict with an eye toward practical application, the Schlieffen Plan offers a clear model for planning under pressure. First, you identify the primary threat. Then you determine the window of vulnerability. After that, you act decisively with the highest concentration of force, physical, logistical or mental, exactly where the opponent is least prepared. To apply this in practical steps, assess your environment, locate your greatest risk, analyze the timeline before that risk peaks, then commit to action that secures your position before your window closes. The principle is timeless, whether you're analyzing geopolitics or building a long-term, resilient strategy. If you found this deep dive useful and want more content built for serious history buffs and battlefield-minded thinkers, make sure you subscribe to Battlefield Survival and share this guide with others who appreciate real military insight.